Welcome to Remembering Our Spirits. Hi there. From around the year with Emmett Fox, December 20th, 2023. Life is like that. You form certain beliefs for one reason or another, and then you have to live with them. When you were growing up, well meaning people told you many negative things by way of warning, thereby implanting fears. And these fears are with you today, consciously or subconsciously. Other problems you brought here with you when you were born. You meet your fears dramatized. The things that we fear in our hearts have a way of coming to us in the guise of other people's acts, of business conditions, and of a breakdown in some part of the body. Thank God it is not necessary as a rule to delve into the recesses of the subconscious and dredge for those things. In the spiritual teaching, as given in the Bible, we learn that by beating the symptoms spiritually, not, of course, covering them up, but by beating them, the fear or false suggestion that caused the symptom disappears too, and the patient is free. Acquaint now thyself with him and be at peace. Job 22:21. I have said numerous times on this channel that our thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions create our reality. And because of inner child wounding and traumas and ways in which we were treated by our primary caregivers in our very early years, we gave meaning to ourselves based on that treatment that are not true. We assigned meanings to ourselves by virtue of how we were being treated in that moment that are not true. For example, I know a woman and her mother, not by, I'm deciding if I want to share this. Yes, a woman in my life whom I knew many years ago, her mother used to, when they were young kids, her and her siblings, she used to take them by the hair of their head and smack their heads up against the wall and say, "You good for rotten nothing kids." All of us have been treated in one way, shape, or form. We have been mistreated by our parents. I get to own where I mistreated my daughter. My mother mistreated myself at times in my life. And once we turn 30, in my spiritual practice, it is time that we take ownership of all of our childhood experiences and we heal those ourselves with your higher power and all of the spiritual modalities and healing modalities available to us today. There are so many. I'm a huge proponent of EMDR. I own EMDR pulsing paddles and I use it with myself often. It is such a tremendous help for me when I am moving through a dark night of the soul and bringing all of those fear-based thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions into the light. We can change our beliefs. It's not easy. And we also don't want to pour spiritual pink paint over them. There are ways to own these parts of ourselves and bring them into conscious contact with our divine adult self and take these wounded parts of us out from behind the driver's seat of our lives. Think about it. A 4-year-old can't even see out the window or reach the pedal. They have no business driving. A wounded 14-year-old who believes that she is incapable and worthless has no business driving. That perception and thought is to be healed. Perception correction. And that is done with our higher power and spiritual tools. You guys got this. You got this. I'm working it. You can work it. As always, I want to share one more thing. So last year in 2022, years ago in 1990, let me back up. Years ago in 1993 and in 1994, I had 2 major abdominal surgeries. Because of those surgeries, I now have a lot of scar tissue inside my intestinal area. It's just scar tissue. It happens, right? When you get hurt and you get opened up, scar tissue is created. So last year in February and March and August of 2022, scar tissue came loose inside my intestinal area and blocked my lower intestines. So I was completely blocked from food coming in and going out of my body, and I became exceedingly sick. I ended up in the hospital 3 times with a tube down my nose and everything in my stomach being suctioned out. And they were simply hoping that the scar tissue would move and unblock my intestine. Otherwise, they would have to open me up and create more scar tissue to move that scar tissue blocking my intestine. Then I would have more scar tissue in there, potentially blocking my intestine. Each time I was in the hospital, my experience was that I knew 2023 was a year where I was to step up spiritually in Sharon. And the fears and doubts that were inside of me, the thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions that I had subconsciously been holding on to, came into the conscious part of my mind and showed up as scar tissue blocking my intestine. I believe that. I personally believe that. Each time I went into the hospital, I called upon my God to expand my experience, belief, faith, knowing that upon asking, I will receive. And each time I was in the hospital, the scar tissue moved on its own. And starting in January of 2023, I started reading Around the Year with Emmett Fox, and I'm going to move. And I wrote this book. That's how my fear showed up for me, physically. I do believe there is a spiritual component to all physical ailment, and oftentimes an emotional and trauma wounded component as well. I am not asking for you to believe this. I'm not. I am simply Sharon, Sharon. In the reading for the 20th, it said, you meet your fears dramatized. That's how I say it, dramatized. And my fear dramatized as scar tissue blocking my small intestines 3 times last year. The things that we fear in our hearts have a way of coming to us in the guise of other people's acts. People can be really mean. People can be very mean, and especially with this social media nonsense, people are so mean. They're so mean. But here, I want to tell you a truth, and this is a truth. When people are mean to other people, they are simply avoiding being in relationship with parts of themselves that they don't like about themselves. So they're projecting that meanness out onto other people rather than being in relationship with all of the parts of themselves, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So really, when people say mean stuff about us, it's simply a reflection of the relationship that they're having with themselves. Truth and blessings to them. The things that we fear in our hearts have a way of coming to us in the guise of people's acts, of business conditions, of a breakdown in some part of the body. My body broke down last year, and I continued to walk through with trusted people who love me for me and want me Sharon, Sharon. As always, take the best for you and leave the rest. And if nothing resonates for you, turn this channel off and find one that does. Community. Community is key. And we are growing this one. I know it. Have a blessed day.